The message for today continues from yesterday. We're dealing with Surat Al-Kaf of the Quran, and this is this surah par excellence of the end time of Akhiru Zaman. The Hindu must study it, the Jew must study it, the Christian most of all must study this surah, because the Muslims are not studying it. And maybe Allah might bless you with insight into the surah, because this is the surah of insight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us Surat Al-Kaf of the Quran so that it will provide guidance for us, show us the way in the end time. And when you live in a world in which women are dressed and yet naked, you know you're living in the end time. And so in the end time, remember, there is important guidance in Surah Al-Kaf of the Quran. This is the surah which introduces us to the the model of scholarship that will work in Akhiru Zaman, the end time. The conventional scholarship is not going to succeed. The classical scholarship is not going to succeed. The traditional scholarship is not going to succeed. What kind of scholarship do you need to be able to penetrate the reality of the world in the end time? Are you listening the Hindu? Are you listening the Jew? Are you listening the Christian? Listen to what kind of scholarship you need to penetrate the reality of the world in the end time. It is the scholarship of someone known as Khidr alayhi salam, and we fondly refer to him, no disrespect intended, because this was a class for children. We fondly refer to him as Mr. Green. And he has he has a scholarship that when he teaches, when he guides, it is akin to raindrops falling from the sky, which brings the dead earth back to life, revives everything. It's like a fresh breeze. It changes the lives of people, turns them away from this path and brings them to that path. This is Khidr alayhi salam. And Allah speaks about him and about his model, and he says two things about him. Number one, Ataynahu rahmatan min indina, we gave him kindness. We gave him compassion from ourselves, divine compassion, divine kindness, and that's the kind of person he is. He has that kind of kindness and that kind of compassion. And secondly, وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِن لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. In this man, knowledge did not come only from external observation, from investigation, from scientific inquiry, from rationality. No, knowledge came to him also directly from Allah. And as a consequence of getting knowledge directly from Allah, he could see what others could not see. He could understand what others could not understand. He could penetrate the reality of things in a world in which, now listen carefully, in a world in which Dajjal is in charge. So this is the answer to the Antichrist, this man called Khidr alayhi salam. And as my friend told me from Serbia, he said the model of Khidr is the model of Jesus. Yes, that's what he said to me. So in the age of Dajjal, listen carefully, in the age of the Antichrist, remember the fire and the river, remember the road to heaven, and the road to hell. Remember, he has this PhD in deception. And so in the age of Dajjal, which is the age in which we now live, appearance and reality are opposite to each other in everything connected to Dajjal, especially in what constitutes money. Especially in what constitutes money, monetary economics. Appearance and reality are opposite to each other. And if you focus, your conventional scholarship is focused only on the world of appearance, you'll be deceived. You'll be taken for a ride. You will misguide others. All will go into the hellfire. It is if you're able to penetrate beyond the world of appearance to reach the world of reality, only then would you know the nature of the world, the reality of the world in the end time, and be able to respond to it appropriately. And so you need a new model of scholarship for understanding and penetrating the end time, and that's the model of Khidr alayhi salatu wasalam, and we don't have that at all today in our institutions of Islamic learning in the world of Islam. That's why our scholars are at sea. The surah takes us to Khidr alayhi salam, who is to be found at Majma' al-Bahrain, the place where the two oceans meet. And we begin by saying this is not to be understood literally. It's not the the Atlantic and the Pacific, not at all. This is not ayah muhkama. This is ayah mutashabiha. This is not a verse to be understood plainly. It is a verse to be interpreted, not tafsir, but Taweel. And Khidr alayhi salam is the master of Taweel. The commentator of the Quran, what's his name now, Imam Baydawi, he is the one who offered an interpretation of the two oceans meeting together. He calls it the meeting point of knowledge that is externally acquired and knowledge that is internally received. This is Imam al-Baydawi. Ilm al-Zahir and Ilm al-Batin. When the two worlds of knowledge, the two oceans of knowledge, the ocean, the ocean of knowledge externally acquired through observation, investigation, scientific inquiry, rational inquiry, that ocean of knowledge is harmoniously integrated with another ocean of knowledge, namely an ocean of knowledge which comes from internal, intuitive, spiritual insight. Allah blesses you with that knowledge because He gives you nur in your heart. When these two oceans of knowledge are harmoniously integrated, there you will find the most learned of all men. But the modern Western world has given us an epistemology. Now, all of this that I'm teaching here, I've been teaching it for 25 years. So this is for beginners, really, because my students, they know this subject already. They already heard this so many times. The modern Western civilization has insisted that knowledge comes only externally, and knowledge does not come internally. This is Dajjal's epistemology. Anything that comes internally belongs to Disneyland. It cannot pass the test of knowledge. But the epistemology of the Quran is different. The epistemology of the Gospel, of the Torah, of the Hindu scriptures, is different. We on this side recognize that knowledge also comes from above. Knowledge also comes from internal, intuitive, spiritual insight. Knowledge comes to the heart which is pure and clean, not a dirty heart. If you have a dirty heart, you cannot get nur. But if your heart is sincere, and Allah blesses that heart with nur, then you can be blessed to see what others cannot see. And you get knowledge from above. This was Khidr alayhi salam. And in our civilization there's a line from Khidr to Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, who in his Bastawi, he called for basar, basar, basar. That's the heart of the Masnavi. Basar is to see not just with the external eye, but also with the internal eye. And there's a straight line from Rumi to Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, who was the first in the world of Islam to offer a credible and intelligent and a dazzling critique and defense of knowledge internally acquired. No one has done it more beautifully than he has done in the first 2 chapters of his book, The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam. But most people who know about Iqbal, they're only content with his poetry. That's all. They don't care for Iqbal as a scholar. But those who want to penetrate Iqbal as a scholar would go to those first 2 chapters. When I was doing my master's degree in philosophy at the University of Karachi, this was one of my textbooks. And I had to read and study those 2 chapters, the first 2 chapters, about 20 times and still couldn't understand him. Only when Allah blessed me to penetrate Surat Al-Kaf, only then was I able to understand these 2 chapters, in which he offered a magnificent defense of the epistemology of the Quran, which declares that knowledge can also come internally. We don't have the time tonight to take you to a detailed exposition of the encounter of Musa and Khidr alayhi salam. It'll take too much time. But when Musa alayhi salam traveled and eventually reached, I'm cutting corners now, he reached and he met with Khidr alayhi salam. He found him sitting on a rock. He didn't find him sitting on shifting sand. This was a man with backbone. Backbone. If you want to find the scholar of Akhiru Zaman, look for someone with backbone, someone who will stand up and defy Dajjal. This was Malcolm X, yes. And while all of you may be offering this kind of critique and that kind of criticism of Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, I recognize him. Despite the mistakes which he made. I recognize him to have a backbone and to have the courage to stand up and defy the enemy. This is the man sitting on the rock. And when Musa alayhi salam asked, "Can I follow you so I can learn from you?" Conventional scholarship wants to study eschatology. Remember, it's not Musa alayhi salam, it is his ummah behind him that Allah is talking about. This is the reply from Khidr alayhi salam. And I love these 2 verses of the Quran so much that when I'm dead and I'm buried, I don't know where it'll be, and you come to visit my grave, if it's not there, please put it on my grave for me. This is how scholarship of Akhiru Zaman, of the model of Khidr responds to conventional scholarship. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إنك لن تستطيع معي الصبر. You don't have the patience to bear with me. وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرة. And how can you bear with that which lies beyond your capacity to comprehend? Beautifully spoken by Khidr alayhi salam. But Musa says, I want to travel with you to learn from you. I will be patient. So Khidr said, okay, you can travel with me, but don't ask me any questions. You see? This is how you deal with them. This is how you deal with them. These people with a chip on their shoulder and their arrogance and their obstinacy. No, I'm right. Don't ask any questions. I will explain to you. Humble them. But not the one who comes to you with humility, with hunger in his heart. He wants to learn. This one you treat differently. This one you treat him with a smile. The way my teacher used to always give me a smile when I'd come to him with a question and so on. And so he agrees now. I won't ask any questions. And they went and they traveled, and there were 3 events that occurred. We don't have the time, you know that. But if you go to my book, Surat Al-Kaf in the modern age, go to my website and download the book free of charge, and you will see where I analyze the 3 events. Number 1, a boat which he scuttles. Number 2, a boy who he kills. And number 3, a wall which is crumbling, and he rebuilds the wall, even though the people of that area offered no hospitality. On all 3 occasions, conventional scholarship, looking at the external appearance of the event, came to a conclusion which was negative. On all 3 occasions. On all 3 occasions, Khidr alayhi salam had to offer something called a Taweel, an interpretation of the event. And as a consequence of that interpretation of the event, he's able to explain the reality of the events which differed from the external. Internal reality was different from external appearance, and on all 3 occasions, the internal reality of the conduct of Khidr alayhi salam was positive, while the external appearance was negative. And this is Taweel. Allah has given us a Quran in which there are verses which are muhkamat, and there are verses which are mutashabihat. These are verses which are plain and clear, you just need to explain them. But these are verses which have to be interpreted. They're not there by accident, they're there by divine design. And the interpretation of these verses will continue on till the end of the world. They'll never be exhausted. And the test of scholarship in Akhiru Zaman is the capacity to interpret those verses, and we're making a humble effort to do so.